You don't have to feel confident to act confidently. Instead, you can build confidence in the same way that you would develop any good habit. And it's not a trick. Hi, I'm Neil Bierbaum, and today I'm going to show you how you can appear and ultimately be confident even though you may not be feeling that way inside. Many people imagine that to feel confident you need to talk yourself into it, like you've got to have some perfect internal conversation with yourself and feel perfectly confident in order to be and appear confident. You'll have better luck trying to bring a conspiracy theorist back to reality. Fortunately, there's a more direct route, one that relies on decision and action. And it's a path along which those pesky thoughts and worries you have, which come in the form of thoughts and feelings, will eventually fall in line. If you've followed my 5 motivational states series, you'll be well drilled in the idea that you can take action despite your feelings, and your feelings will fall in line. And if you haven't, I recommend you do that at some stage. This notion of feelings following action was proven by psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi through his studies of the flow state or state of optimal experience. In this episode, we're going to apply that same principle to the subject of confidence. If you're finding value from this, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button. You're also invited to like, share, and comment. When we talk about confidence, we are really talking about the appearance of confidence. After all, nobody can know for sure what another person is really thinking or feeling. So what we're really commenting on is a person's attitude or approach, which is only available to us through their observable behavior. We regard a person as confident to the degree that they do something without fuss. Here's an example. Let's say someone is about to do a bungee jump. They get strapped in with barely a word, walk up to the ledge, and jump. No fuss. The next person comes along and, say, can't stop chattering. They require a whole lot of encouragement to get to the ledge, and when they do get there, they make even more noise. Then finally they jump. You would naturally consider the first person more confident than the second. However, you'd have no idea what was really going on for that first person. Maybe nothing at all, and maybe they're just very good at managing their internal world. If we were to interview them and found that they really had nothing going on at all, we might think they're lucky to be so naturally brave and confident. Or we might be dealing with a case of what I call stupid confidence. That's when you're too, let's say, naive or unaware to have any doubts about yourself. U2's Bono has been quoted as saying, when you're 16, you think you can take on the world, and sometimes you're right. That kind of stupid, naive stupid. Stupid is a harsh word, I know, but the point is that bravery or confidence can sometimes come down to naivety, as in the case of Bono, or, as in the case of some other people, you can probably think of a few, a lack of awareness or sensitivity. And who would want that? So what we're really looking at is something like what this quote points to. Courage is not the absence of fear, but acting in spite of fear. It's often attributed to Nelson Mandela, but I think he was quoting Mark Twain. This opens up the possibility that you don't have to talk yourself into confidence. You don't have to, for example, convince yourself that you're good at something or that you'll be safe. You can do that and it can have some effect, but it's what I call fighting content with content. In other words, when you conjure up positive thoughts, content, they will inevitably be met by some negative thoughts, more content, that cancel them out. And the answer isn't more positive thoughts because they would just attract more negative thoughts. You can think of it like wanting to be alone, so you go stand on a street corner wearing jewelry. You're going to attract people who want that jewelry, and flashing more jewelry isn't going to make them go away. The more effective approach would be to, well, not be in the corner in the first place, but if you're there, then head fast and smart in the direction you want to go, otherwise known as running. No, I'm not talking about running, I'm talking about walking smartly and sharply in the direction that you want to go. Now let's apply that back to our bungee scenario. We can see that both bungee jumpers, regardless of what might have been going on for them internally, fuss or no fuss, were able to make the decision to jump and were able to act on that decision despite whatever thoughts or feelings they had. By extrapolation, your ability to decide and act is independent of your thoughts and feelings. You do this all the time, like when you get up off the couch on a Sunday to check your emails or exercise or wash the dishes, and when you drag yourself off to work on a Monday. Although hopefully, if you've been watching my 5 motivational states series, you don't do that anymore. It's the same principle though, the same action of the mind. Let me illustrate. When you need to get going on that Sunday afternoon, when you get started with whatever activity or exercise you want to do, you always have to get through the dip. Take the example of going for a run. You first give up the resistance to taking the action. In doing that, you kind of slide past the arguments against doing it. Another way of putting it is you surrender to the decision and find yourself doing the activity. You run to the second lamppost before you even think about the weather or anything else that might make you change your mind. Then you're out there, and before you know it, you find yourself in the flow state. Now we're talking about doing that same thing more consciously and deliberately and applying it to a situation that requires confidence. Let's look at an example. Let's say you need to call someone important to ask for something, a job maybe, or a round of funding for your new business. Of course, you plan what you're going to say and you rehearse. Then you give up your resistance and just find yourself dialing the number and talking all the way through 2 exchanges. Now you're at that second lamppost. Then let's say you fumble your words. You might become agitated and find that those negative thoughts and feelings start to crowd in. You try to fight them with positive ones, but that just makes it worse. Now you're like that sports person who's trying too hard, trying to force the shot and becoming agitated. So you become aware that you're doing that, and you drop back and focus on the ball, on the shot. In this example of the phone call, that means you focus on the details of what you want to say and on the outcome of what you want to achieve. As soon as you put your attention back on the details, you'll calm down. And guess what? To the person on the other side, you'll appear confident. Even if you did get a bit shaky, you'll earn respect if you pull yourself together and perform, which will happen naturally because you're applying the principles for getting into the flow state. You can apply that same process when you're giving a talk. To my clients who are looking to feel confident for a talk, I say, focus on the message and the content of your talk and not on your performance. They stare at me blankly, and then I have to explain all of this. Then I point out that when you focus on your performance, that's when, in other words, how am I doing while you're talking? When you ask yourself, how am I doing, and you start to self-evaluate, that's when feelings of doubt arise. If you try to fight them, you're back on that street corner trying to chase away robbers or beggars by flashing your bling. It's a bad strategy for being left alone. The more effective thing to do is to shift your attention and go where you want to go. In other words, instead of focusing on your performance, focus on the subject matter. Focus on the one single message that you want to land in your talk. Make that your anchor and keep coming back to it. That will pull you back to where you need to be, and before you know it, you'll be in the flow state, and people will marvel at how confident you appear. Only you'll know the truth of what's going on inside, like that first bungee jumper we talked about earlier. Though I'll venture to bet that you'll also surprise yourself with how confident you actually feel by the time you finish. I know, I've been doing this for years. You can see then that confidence can be about managing your attention rather than trying to convince yourself that you're good enough by fighting content with content, by flashing gold to get rid of beggars. You can see too that this has walked us right into the halls of mindfulness, which is good news because science has shown that with long-term meditation practice, you can train your brain to reflexively shift your attention away from your thoughts and feelings and onto the mind's chosen subject of focus. So there's a clue to what comes next. Meditation practice. The real reason for doing a breath or a mantra meditation is not to relax, that's secondary. The primary reason is to learn to recognize when your attention has wandered and bring it back to your chosen subject of focus, the breath or that mantra. I'll bet you never saw that coming. Meditation as a way to build confidence. Yet that is indeed what I'm saying, and there is science to back it up. If you're interested, read The Science of Meditation by Daniel Goleman and Richard Davidson. There's one caveat to all this, and that is that if you're overly stressed, then it's very difficult to apply this. I get that. So it's no failure to use some chemical support in the form of, say, rescue remedy drops or beta blockers, or even a mild tranquilizer in extreme situations. If you need that in the beginning or in extreme situations to calm down your physiology, nothing wrong with that. Just keep applying these principles until they become a habit. So to sum up then, here are some key points to remember. First, you don't need to feel confident to appear confident. Secondly, fighting the negative content of your mind with positive content is like trying to chase away beggars by flashing your bling. Third, your ability to act is independent of your thoughts and feelings. Fourth, focus externally on the goal and the details of the activity. Don't focus internally on your thoughts and feelings. Number 5, when giving a talk, keep your attention on the message and not the performance. 6, confidence is about where you put your attention. It's not about changing thoughts or feelings. Number 7, meditation is the key to training your mental muscle for focusing your attention, which can benefit you when you need to appear confident and ultimately be confident. And finally, number 8, it's okay to use chemical support, but your goal should be to always apply this practice until it becomes a stable habit. Thank you. And if you found value from that, please remember to subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.